Good morning.
Good morning. Hang on, I'm just switching everything over. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, all good, thank you.
How's the last week been?
Yeah, good. Got some Wainwrights.
Nice.
Chuffed
Add
with
into
that.
that total.
I even did some jogging in between them.
Did you? How
Uh,
did that go?
yeah, yeah, no, it's good. I definitely it gets easier the longer I go for. The first
Yeah.
2, 3 miles are just so painful. It's ridiculous. But actually, the longer I go, the better. Unfortunately, Mac then starts going backwards as well.
Is that something that you can always do, sort of a walking warm up and then run where it's not painful, or is it just it's always as soon as you start running?
It's just as soon as I start running. Yeah. It's
That's very
it's
sad.
it's it's age and arthritis, Robin. You have these delights to look forward to.
Oh dear.
But yeah, I mean, you get through it. You get through it. Um, it's and you know, I think the more you do it and the more you know you get through it, the easier it is. You just grit your teeth.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm
Right,
kind,
okay.
I'm kind to myself, and I'll stop and have some walk breaks, and every time I restart, it's easier.
Right, okay.
But that's boring. Have you seen there's another record set on the
Backyard
backyard?
Ultra. I was following it intensely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
awesome.
119 laps now.
Yeah, it's
One
just
shy,
incredible.
one shy of
I know.
500 miles.
Yeah, that would have made it such neat figures, wouldn't it? Uh,
Yeah.
and from the sounds of it, he could have kept going.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
it was the poor chap Sam Harvey who was broken,
Yeah. Completely
and
broken.
he really
Trying
looked
to start
broken
to.
as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Just Phil smiling on the finish line. Like,
um,
will someone please run further with me?
yeah, yeah. Who's next? So yeah, so I mean, that's interesting. It just goes to show that there is more to come.
Mm.
Uh,
Apparently, Phil was running 40-minute laps quite consistently all the way through as well. I was really trying to find more data, but they actually weren't recording the lap times anywhere.
oh,
Well,
really?
not that I could find. I
Bet
went
he
on,
must have been.
yeah, well, yeah, they must have been. I went onto the stream and everything and asked, like, is there anywhere to find this? And the first comment reply was like, oh, another person asking for the lap times. You'd think someone would have started a spreadsheet by now.
I mean, it's not like anyone really wants to know this stuff.
Yeah.
I would have thought that's really interesting data, and not just for
Yeah.
anyone who wants to do it, but interesting for the record and just
Mm,
for posterity. I mean, it's this is yeah, a
yeah.
lot of people use data and they use it as benchmarks and
Mm. Yeah,
uh,
because there's so much science behind it. Well, it has to be more scientific now
yeah.
anyway,
Mm.
because there's such variance in lap times and how far you can go. Like, what's the optimal amount of rest that you can give your body, or that you should push
Yes.
yourself? Yeah, it is really interesting.
Gosh, yeah. Now I want to circle back to you because we got interrupted by our guest,
Yeah,
annoyingly.
we did.
Zuki, Zuki came on, and I was ready to pepper you with more questions, but you
Yes,
recently paced Claire
yes,
at STW 100. So that must be what, 3 weeks ago now.
yeah. It'll be 3 weeks ago this weekend.
So you
Yeah,
did the last 50 miles. I mean, I'm always
yes.
I'm always amazed when people say, "Oh yeah, I just paced someone for 50 miles." It's like, God, I mean, that's an epic achievement in itself and deserves a medal.
Thanks very much. She gave me one actually.
Did she? Oh,
Yeah, she
bless.
had one at the finish line ready for me from a fiance. It was really sweet.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
That's nice. That's nice. How was it?
yeah.
What was it like?
It was amazing. It
Mm.
really was because I've never ran that far. I mean, I've not ran 100 miles myself, so I've never
No.
seen people between 50 to 100 miles in the first place. So I didn't really know what to expect from that standpoint. I expected to do a lot more walking than we did. That was pretty amazing how much running they still were able to do.
I was going to say, is like, yeah, I mean, I'd be kind of relying on that.
Yeah, well, I sort of was. I was questioning my fitness a little bit going into it, wondering how it would go, but actually it was fine.
Mm,
It was really good. I was sort of running ahead, opening gates, and helping her at the checkpoints as much as I possibly could.
yeah.
Just being a little cheerleader as much as I could along the way. Playing, I'd got a little Spotify playlist of her favorite songs to play when needed, and
Yeah.
I'd got three little mini video interviews as well from people who loved her
Oh,
to play
oh, that's so
at
nice.
moments she needed to rally.
Yeah,
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 yeah. So those were all immediately brought her to tears, as you'd expect.
yes,
10 like that many miles into a
yeah,
hundred, but they worked, and only once did she question whether she could do it or not, which speaks to her character and how strong she is. So yeah, it was an amazing
yeah,
14 hours, and I was so happy that I got to see
yeah.
her finish.
Oh. And what did you do? Do you, at the end, do you peel off when you get to the track?
So I think I could have run round as well, but it felt inappropriate to me. So I sort of did filmed her because she ended up running from 20K with a guy called Nick as well. Um, I peeled off at sort of like 100 meters round of the track and cut across so I could film her coming across the finish line. Also, I don't want to cross a 100-mile finish
No,
line before I've done
no.
one,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
like that
Definitely
just
feels wrong.
big jinx that, isn't it? So yeah, no, that's what happened, and it was awesome.
Brilliant,
Yeah,
brilliant. Well, Anna Troup has entered the room. So
perfect.
let's welcome. Good morning.
Hello, Kate. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? Anna, this
Well,
is Robin. Robin, this is Anna, who of course.
Morning.
morning, Robin. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks you.
Excellent. All good, thank you.
Recovery.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah. You-
already started. You go, Kate.
I was just going to say, well, congratulations, and how's recovery going?
Recovery's going well, actually. I went for my first sort of jog this morning, so yeah, no, I think I'm slowly back. I've finally finished constant eating, so yeah, and sleep is still all over the place, but that's kind of normal. So it'll come back to normal at some point. It's fine. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with recovery. It's all good.
And the foot, most importantly.
Foot's fine. The rib, which I think I probably cracked when I fell,
Okay,
is really
yeah,
sore, but foot is totally fine, which is great news.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
so I think we're good.
Oh wow. So I mean, I've been reading a little, obviously you've put out a couple of posts which have been really interesting. Um, Mainly about, well, firstly your preparation, and I think it's just so interesting, isn't it, about how your mind works and what you think is the right amount of training and what actually obviously was the right amount of training can differ so much, can't it?
Yeah, so I think it probably wasn't the right amount of training actually. In terms of if you look at pace this year compared to pace in 21 and 22, I mean, straight cardio fitness wise with the Wattbike, I think I was probably fitter, but the conditioning. I don't know. I just didn't have that consistent speed in quite the same way. But equally, the conditions were much worse. I mean, I think the conditions were quite tough at times, and we lost a lot of time over crossfell. And I think what I haven't put up on Instagram yet was the physical preparation was one thing, Kate, and that's all on Strava. But the mental preparation was all over the place, and I just, and because I was so unsure that I was actually going to race and so unsure I would be able to race, I didn't almost allow myself to consider racing until literally a couple of days before. And then I ended up in this state of total paralysis. I hadn't packed, I hadn't done anything, I hadn't sorted myself out. And so in the end, I had to literally ask Richard to help me, as you would help a child to pack university or for school. You sort of sit them down and go, right, and here's the list and let's work through it. And he literally had to help me sort out the mandatory kit, had to help me make it, because I got myself into this total paralysis of where you can't physically start doing something. And So we got it all done, but my food choices as a result were absolutely shocking. I had nothing in my bag that I wanted to eat. So that played into the second half really badly. But I think the other thing was I hadn't realized how nervous and how worried I was about the whole thing. And so I remember getting to kit check and just being totally inept. I couldn't find the right stuff. I couldn't get it done, do a map grid reference thing. And it was like, everything was just, it was like I was doing it for the first time. And then that night, even though I thought I'd been really all over it, we'd taken a toaster, I was going to get the food that I wanted, I literally didn't sleep a wink. I mean, literally, the bells rang every 15 minutes and I heard them every 15 minutes. I woke, so I got out of bed, my heart rate was 30 up. Rich and I were like, oh my goodness, perhaps you've actually managed to catch a bug in the last 24, 48 hours. And I had a cracking headache and I just felt terrible. And to go into a spine on absolutely zero sleep was an absolute disaster. And again, that played into the second half. And talking to John Knapp, consultant psychiatrist John Knapp at the end, he said, well, of course. He said, your psychology and your subconscious were playing out. This wasn't just a race. This was, were you ever going to be an athlete? Was this ever going to happen? Were you ever going to be able to make a start line, let alone complete any of it? He said, of course you weren't going to get much sleep. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, that was but I mean, it was such total self-sabotage as well in terms of racing. And once upon a time when I first started racing, I used to get so nervous that Richard made me go and do just race after race after race after race. This was way back, so 10 years ago, to the point where racing just became normal and I didn't make myself feel sick over the whole thing. But it was back to that. It was back to feeling absolutely just terrible. And the prep, as I say, was so bad for a spine. I mean, it could not have been. So I think physically the preparation was less than perfect, but mentally the psychology of it was, I hadn't realized how big a part that was going to play. It was interesting.
So, I mean, at what point did it, do you start and then everything is just, okay, well, this is it now. It is what it is. Or was there a point further along in the race that you thought, actually, I'm feeling okay, considering?
So I always start, as you know, really slowly. So I always expect to be, and as everyone always goes off and the whole field is well above record pace and you're thinking, wow, but maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year everyone smashes it out of the park. So I went off and I just did my thing. And because I felt so awful in the morning with this massively high heart rate and this, ridiculous headache, I was just waiting for that to all go down. So I was just going off my heart rate monitor, and if it was massively high, I was just making sure it came down again. So I think that sort of eased me into it. And I truly did my thing, which I'd always said to Richard, I'm just going to go out at my pace. And I always do, to Hebden.
Yeah. That
gave me a chance to catch up with people like Ali Whitlock, some of the Centurion people, see John Boothman, catch up with people that I knew, which sort of settled me into it. And very quickly I ended up running on my own, which is just perfect. No one else's pace, no one else to have to talk to, nothing. I just was able just to sort of tootle along on my own. And that was really nice. And then there's always people at Snake Pass, and then there's always people. And then I think Richard had popped up further up the course, and Debs White and Sarah had popped up further. So I was able to see people on the way to Hebden and just say hello, and started to settle in. I mean, at Hebden, there were people in the aid station. I mean, I think I was really spoiled a few years ago because the top end of the running were put into a separate area. So you had space and, your drop bag. And suddenly you were all in this melee in Hebden, and it was like, oh wow, okay.
Back to economy class.
Yeah. Oh, okay, right. And then suddenly you are thrown into it's all a bit chaotic, and it's the first aid station, and people are still really racing in the spine, and John and Boothman and John Knapp came in behind, and there was some ladies in there already, and Mel Sykes was in there, so it was just a chance to say hello and get some food in, but it felt a bit frenetic. And I think my concern always is Hebden to Hardraw, I find a really hard section. But equally, I think everyone must do, because it's at that point that the race starts to even out. Somehow you end up with your top 10, people drop back, people move forward. And so I was just quite focused on getting out and getting up the road, I knew it'd be cooler overnight because it had been quite warm. And I got to Cowling, and obviously you've got Gary Chapman and his tri bunch, and that is super nice. But by the time I got to Cowling, I was already into, I feel really sick, I can't eat anything, everything in my pack is disgusting, I can't do sugar. So I'd already got to here we go. And I kind of expected it, but it was like, really, again, really, surely this doesn't have to happen every time. And then I saw these two back lights, these red lights in the distance, and I just thought, well, I'll sort of try and catch up to the red lights. And it turned out to be Emma Hopkinson and Shirley Murray, and the two of them were together. Emma's feet were already pretty shot to bits, but they were moving at a really decent pace because they're both fabulous fell runners. So anything hilly, they were just straight up. And I sort of hung back to start with, not because I was hanging back, but because I physically felt so rubbish. It was like, if I catch up, I've got to go through. If I catch up, what do I want to do? So I was just back and forth. And then I did catch them up. And they said, you know, they were obviously confused as well because they could see a head torch that wasn't quite catching them up and what was going on. So I caught up with them and they said, do you want to come with us? And I was like, yes, this is actually a really nice thing to do. I've never done this. I've never gone through the night with anybody else. Let's try it. Let's have a go. And again, you know, you're racing, but you're not really racing by now. You've kind of forgotten that this is a race. It's really just a bunch of people out on the trail getting up there as fast as they can. So we had this fabulous night, just being three mums chatting together. I mean, they're both younger than me. Emma's sort of in her early 40s. Shirley's even younger than that. So they were both at different phases and stages. I felt like the old veteran. And it was just super nice to share those miles and chat. And they were super because they couldn't believe I couldn't eat. The two of them were just able to just keep troughing through everything they had in their packs. And then, you know, then one of them found a baby bell, and it was like, I can eat a baby bell. I'll take the baby bell. And that was the start of a bit of a turnaround, that I could eat something then. And we got to Horton, and Emma's feet were so bad, she said, I'm going to have to stop. And I was really sad because actually the three of us had a really great time, and I think we'd have just continued for the longest time. So we dropped her at Horton, made sure she was fine with the SST team. Obviously it was sad because the three of us had a really nice time together. And she handed me yet another baby bell, and I was like, she was dishing out the remains of her pack to me and Shirley. And then we headed, and Shirley and I then headed up the road to Hardraw, and now Emma's stopped. The pair of us are able to do some jogging as well as some running, and you know, we're moving up hills a bit faster, so we start to pick up the pace. And to the point we get into Hardraw, and there's the front lady. And you know, I thought Irene was miles up the road, and I'm not even really thinking about where she is because we're just getting through the night, and I just am focused on trying to feel better. And by now I'm starving, so it's like, yes.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
my stomach has finally sorted itself out. Only 108 miles in, but finally. And you're so empty by now because you've truly not been able to eat. And I'm just not a person who forces it down, because all that happens if I force it down is I throw up. So it's like, right, let's just go with this. At some point it will turn. So I get to Hardraw, and I literally, they have rice, they have grated cheese, they have butter. It's like, shove it all in a bowl. 3 bowls of this later and a load of fluid later. And I am literally a new woman. It's like, right, okay, let's go. And Shirley is a bit longer and takes a bit more time, but it's like, fine, that's fine. We've got ages. This is a long race. It doesn't really matter. Take your time. Then she forgets her poles, so we go back to pick up her poles. So we're in and out. And all the time. And Irene's left 15, 20 minutes earlier by now. And then at the bottom of Shinafell, at the bottom of the climb, Shirley just says, you go on. And I'm like, okay.
Oh.
So in the end, I just say, okay, fine, I will go on. And so now I'm chasing Irene down because I'm back to feeling pretty good. And as we're coming down from Shinafell, I'm properly running, and I overtake Irene. And then it's like, right, now I need to break the elastic because you never want to see them again. I mean, that is it. You know, once you've gone through, you are racing, and you've got to be gone through. So that's it. By Thwaite, I can't see her. And then by Keld, nowhere. And so I crack on up to Tan Hill, have a big pint of lime and soda, and just get on with it till Middleton. And I think I never look at a tracker. I never look at my phone. I'm bad enough at managing myself and my poles, let alone managing technology. So I never really know where I am. But by Middleton, the team there say she's actually now dropped behind. So it's like, okay, fab, that's fine. I can just keep on moving without worrying too much. And you get to Middleton, and that's a really nice aid station. You've got Jennifer Neal there, and you've got people you know, because it's the same team year after year. And I just sort myself out, and I was like, right, now I'm going to have to do the really difficult bit, the bit I really don't want to do, which is the cauldron snout bit. But okay, we can do this. So I head on up, and it's in spate, and it's just really slow. But I'm going to take it really, really steady, because this is where I'm not very good, as we know. So it's like, right, try and find the right line. That's not the right line. I'm up and down cauldron snout, thinking it's best just to go up this thing, not to come down it as well. But so I get to the top, and that's one big challenge done. And then I head off to hike up Nick, and I get myself into a real muddle. And I'm sort of going around it, but I'm going into it, and I'm thinking, this is really not good to go straight down and hike up Nick. You really don't want to be going down this side.
It's a bit of a scramble.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this feels wrong. So I try to find the path again and get right. And then you know where you are, but it's dark, Kate, and you've got no idea. You lose all sense of perspective. And also, don't forget, I haven't recce'd any of this since 2022. So I'm now working totally on memory, and it's dark, and you're starting to get tired. And so this was the really big thing for me, which was that night of no sleep before. We've always had this thing, if you can do 80 hours, it's about the max. And I was going to get pushed into my max 24 hours earlier. So suddenly I was struggling with, wow, I'm starting to feel, I'm trying to hold this together. And I get down to Dufton, and that's okay. And then Crossfell is wild. I mean, I've never been up Crossfell where you can see absolutely nothing. The wind is howling, it's lashing rain, you're being blown off your feet. It was proper winter condition. And so I'm coming down Crossfell, and I think that's probably quite, for me, as you know, I don't love that stuff. It was a kind of, whoa, that's quite a big thing done. And then you've got that huge long track all the way down. And by the time I'm going down it, and it's so monotonous. I'm starting to feel really sleepy. And just as you get to the bottom of the track, there's this little chap just sitting on a rock, little sort of gnome-like, sitting on there. And he goes, oh, hello, I'm John. Hello, John. We haven't met.
And that was John Shields.
That was John Shields. Oh, hello. So the two of us at that point, and I was like, what are you doing sitting on a rock? And he's like, oh, my feet are a bit sore. And I said, oh, I'm feeling really sleepy. Why don't we just, walk it in together? So we literally then walked from the bottom of the track to Alston together, just chatting, because we've literally never met. It's like, oh, tell me about your life, and what do you do, and where do you live? So, and what's wrong with your feet, kind of thing. So that was a really nice conversation with him.
Yeah.
And we're both, and there's pictures of us both in our full waterproofs looking absolutely bedraggled. And as we came into Garrigill, Richard turned up, and randomly he had a pasty each for us, because there's a lady in Garrigill that seems to serve pasties out of her house. And she said, as you do, she said, those are the two front runners, and she produced these two pasties, one each for us.
Oh, wow.
So John and I get fed as we're walking through Garrigill, and bear in mind, I'm now eating Big Style, so this was good. And so there was just so many great memories from that little bit of coming in and chatting to him. But we get to Alston, have some lasagna. There's no room at Alston. I mean, I think now they've got the Challenger, and they've got everything happening. The aid stations are at certain points really quite busy. So I'm not quite sure how they've dealt with that if it had been really bad weather, because John and I just sat outside.
Okay.
But there was actually no room.
Oh, really?
So I think they'd had a really tough 4 hours in the aid station, just trying to deal with a massive runners coming through. So logistically, I think it is a slightly different race now. Because again, my memory of Alston is I arrive, it's empty.
Yes.
Sit there with my bag, sort myself out in a really calm way. And instead, I'm sitting outside with my bag in front of me, my rucksack here, bits and pieces, bouncing lasagna on my lap. And
that makes it a very different experience, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I'm sounding spoiled. I'm not trying to sound spoiled. I'm sure that the back of the field have had that different experience all the time, but they're taking more time. So if you want to get in and out more quickly, it is a different experience now. And I think some of that adds probably to overall time, because you just don't have that space. And also, the spine team are amazing, and they'll run around and they'll get you drink and they'll sort it out for you if they've got the time. But if they're running over there and dealing over there and trying to find lasagna over here, they haven't got the time.
Yeah.
So Alston was, again, really, really busy. And then I just was like, okay, get the food down, get out, which I did. And bear in mind, I literally have only rice pudding in my bag that I can eat. So everything I'm having to eat is coming from aid stations. It was a total disaster. And I set off for Bellingham, and I'm just like, right, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get this done. And I left John behind, not because I left John behind, but because the medic had said to him, you need to dry your feet out. And I think his feet probably were at a point where he just needed to sit there for a while.
Yeah.
He was moving really, really slowly, which was great for me in Toulston, but beyond, it was like, right, I need to go at my pace now. So I headed off, and then I got myself into the worst pickles ever. You know, by the time I hit Hadrian Wall, a very nice fell runner came out and ran with me for a little bit, which was lovely. You know, it was one of those which wasn't feeling creepy. It was one of those that sort of turns up and says, hello, can I run with you for a bit? And I come from. I was like, yeah, that's fine.
Non-creepy version.
Non-creepy version. So, and he said, I don't mind if you say no, which was also non-creepy. So that was great. So the problem was he left me just as it was starting to get properly dark. And now I'm on my own on Hadrian's Wall, and I haven't again recce'd since they've taken the tree down. Or someone took the tree down.
Do you have to go round now or something?
It feels quite, well, no, to my really sleep-deprived brain, it felt really different. And I must have stood there for an hour looking for a trail that my watch said was there, that the map said was there, but I physically couldn't find. And in my mind, you went from there and you almost went straight across fields, but that again was back from 2022. So I was in a real pickle at that point. Rang Richard, who said, you're just fine, just go east. I've got no idea where east is.
Not helpful.
Not helpful. And also Hadrian's Wall feels quite, it's one of those places I don't love being on my own. It feels slightly nerve-wracking at night for some reason. And also there's quite big drops off the edge.
Yeah.
And so you don't really want to make a mess, and I'm really capable of making a mess. So it was like, okay, I'll just take this a bit steady. And once I finally found my way, it was fine. But that took a chunk of time. Came off Hadrian's Wall, and again, I find those fields between Hadrian's Wall and Bellingham just really confusing, and they feel again like they've been knocked around. And I don't know if they've been doing forest work. I'm not quite sure what had been happening, but in the light of my torch, nothing is making great sense on the ground versus what I'm trying to nav off my watch and even my phone. And then I catch my toe and I land on this big stick, and I'm so bruised, I'm so fucked off.
This is not fun anymore.
This is no fun anymore. I can feel the heel of my hand swelling, and I've got massive bruising up my wrist, and I can feel my leg is knackered, and I'm like, oh God, I hate this bit. I think I get to Bellingham just clearly looking really fed up. And Sharon Dyson takes one look and says, do you want some sleep? Like, I'm having 20 minutes, Sharon, that's it, in a chair, then I'm cracking on. But she left me for 40. So, and I think that was probably the best thing she could have done. However, I did wake up having had my neck down like this.
Oh no.
Oh my God, I can't move. So we sorted me out and got me out. And because again, Bellingham's full of midges. So she was super nice and let me be inside while I just sort of got myself sorted and got out, because otherwise you'd been eaten alive. I mean, it was really bad. And I headed off, and it was fine to Burness. I can't complain. That section went really, really well. Apart from I was falling asleep on my poles, didn't even realise I'd hit checkpoint 5.5. So my head was down my poles. This is all a bit slow. But John Bamber fed me really strong coffee. And it was like, right, okay, it's the Cheviot. I know this is bad, but it can't be that bad. It can't be as bad as it has been before. And oh my God, it was worse.
No.
I don't know what it does to you, that section, but it just plays these horrendous mind games with you. And those slabs seem to go on and on forever. And my sleep-deprived brain can't translate that a line on a watch or on a phone is a map, is a route. It forgets why you're there. You can't remember why you're on the Pennine Way, why you care about being on the Pennine Way. And you're trying to think of many ways why you should come off the line, why it would make a difference if you came off the line. What would happen if you came off the line?
Oh my goodness.
So it's really, really, it's not great. And then a couple of spine safety team guys were out, but they were heading somewhere else. But I had company for this little bit, and that was amazing, because that almost, you're lucid, but you're not lucid. So that just triggers something and you come back into where you need to be. So at that point, it was like, okay, now I know why I'm on the line. I know what I'm doing, but this still feels like it's going on forever. Yeah. And it went on and on forever. But you just remember it from other years, and you just go, you know what? It's the same for everyone. it just, and then you think at the end of a 10K race, that last kilometre goes on forever. It doesn't really matter what the race is. That last bit just seems to last forever. So past Hut 2 was fine. I actually ran down that hill. I was like, wow, I live in the Lake District. I can run down things. Quite good for a minute. And then actually I really was running down, stood on top of the shill, did what everyone says you've got to do, take it in, thought I may never have to come back here again. That would be okay. And then headed on down to get to Kirk Yetholm. And just before you sort of head down the real final descent, there's this fabulous little traverse. You can see it going round. It sort of goes up a bit, which you feel a bit cheated by, but it just does traverse round. And I'm going along there, and I do that classic thing that everyone has done at some point. You catch your toe and you go flying and you land on your face before you've known that you've caught your toe. And I was like, I cannot believe this has happened again. And everything hurts at this point, and I've got cuts on my knees. I'm just like, really? And then I think, right, that's it. You've got 5 miles. You're going to walk most of it. There is no point risking this now, because I kind of looked up, and as I looked up, there was this big rock right by my head, and it was like, that could have been my head. Then that would not be funny. You'd now be looking at a smashed up face. You'd still have got down, but it would still have not been funny. So I thought, I'm just going to take it steady. And I did take it really steady until I got to that last hill you go up before you come into Kirk Yetholm. And then I just ran all the way. But that's because I'd forgotten that it's quite a long way. So, you know, I'm running now, and I'm going to have to keep running. So I just kept running in. And that was it. But I was convinced for all of the Cheviots that I was being caught, that someone was going to catch me. It was the worst feeling ever. So even though 6 hours looks like a big margin, it felt like absolutely nothing at the time.
I suppose, yeah, if you don't know, you're just constantly looking over your shoulder, aren't you?
And trying not to, because then clearly I fall on my face.
Right.
So it was yeah, I mean, it's always different when you see all the photos and you see the social media. It always looks like people are smiling and they're having the most amazing time, and there's nothing ever that captures the fact that bits in between can be absolutely rubbish. And you know, it was, you said, Kate, early on there, you said, at what point did it feel okay? I mean, I think my overriding feeling was, oh my God, I remember this now. And for those of us who've had children, you forget after the first one, and then you get into the second one and you go, oh my God, I remember this now. Like that on the spine, it's like, oh wow, I remember this now.
Why am I doing this again?
What have I done? Because you blank out. So I promised myself I'm going to write down at some point over this week how bad the Cheviots are and how it feels on those slabs when it feels like you're going round in circles. So this time, if I do it again, I will remember. And actually, I think that will make it easier to push through it. Because I was remembering while I was doing it, as opposed to being mentally prepared for it. But I think the biggie for me was that first night of no sleep before racing. It was, and that was just a real problem.
So you just had the 40 minutes?
Yeah.
It's pretty grim, that, isn't it?
I genuinely don't think I could function. I mean, there's wanting to challenge yourself or test yourself, but yeah, I don't think I could do that at all. I think that's astonishing.
It is.
I was doing the maths. You know, every 30 minutes you sleep, you've got to go a minute a mile faster for 30 miles. And you start to do that maths and you think, wow, you know, how much sleep do you really need? And how much slower would it actually make you go?
It's incredible that you managed to go that far with only just that 40 minutes, but it actually mirrors the FKT that you did, where you only had 40 minutes then as well. So it's becoming a running theme.
But I bet she started with a night's sleep.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah, I did. And the FKT, the lying down time was all about settling my stomach, or trying to settle my stomach, as opposed to really sleeping. This time was, oh my God, I absolutely am now sleeping. In other times I've done the summer spine, I've laid down, like I laid down at Middleton in 21, but it didn't make any difference. I didn't sleep. But this time I was out. Absolutely. And Sharon literally had to wake me up. So it was a very different thing, and I am 100% convinced it was that first night, that night before.
But yeah, I wonder, I mean, people like Kim Collison are now they're now talking about actually consciously taking more sleep, because it then allows you to be faster.
I suppose they are probably faster.
Okay.
I suppose how much faster would I run per mile if I was sleeping? I don't know, not that much over that distance. So I think for me, it's always going to be a trade-off for that. Maybe for the really fast guys, there is a proper trade-off. I know Tian, when he broke the summer spine record, was doing quite a lot of sleeping.
Yeah.
But then when he was running really, really fast. And with a pack of that weight, I am never going to run that fast. I think structurally I'd just fall apart. Because I think that's the thing no one ever really talks about. You are running with 6.5 kilos.
Yeah.
Because the mandatory kit now is enough to get you to 5.5.
Did you manage to do any training with your full spine kit on, or was it or did you not get that far?
No, I did hiking with the full spine pack. I didn't do a lot of running because I was constantly balancing Robin. Now I just need to make the start line, and I felt putting lots more weight through my foot wouldn't have been the best thing to do. So that was the one thing that I didn't do tons of. And when I look back in training, say for 2021, we'd done quite a lot of treadmills with weight belts, uphill hiking in the winter with big sort of, the weight vest things. And I wonder if that had increased leg strength and ability. And I feel my back and neck have had quite a battering, and I'm sure it's the pack. But equally, the mandatory kit's gone up by about 1 kilo since the last time I did it, because you've got bivy bags and big jackets now. So it's just different. It's the same for everyone. I'm not whinging. It is the same for everyone.
But for someone your size, an extra kilo, an extra 5 kilos is a large percentage increase on your joints and your everything, isn't it?
Well, you're looking at over 10% of body weight, and on a I suppose a bone that was already going
yeah. And your quad's okay. Did they fully recover after the FKT?
So I about 48 hours before racing, Richard said to me, actually, I'm not sure you've got any quad muscle on that left side, just in that bit there. I'm not sure it's ever come back. It was like, that's great. And again, with the benefit of hindsight, I think no, that particular area probably is a bit still weak, which is probably why my knee and glute have on the left side been not 100%. So it's one of the things. I'm seeing the physio next week, and I'm going to say, right, here, what are we going to do to bring all that back since it was torn? I'm not sure it's ever come fully. And again, it was thrown into nothing to hiking to let's do 50 miles to let's go run a spine. So it's done all right.
Done well. yeah.
But yeah, no, the quads seem to be okay. I think Wattbikes give you some pretty strong quads and legs generally. So I think the Wattbike has been pretty phenomenal for that.
Because you've had a pretty difficult couple of years since the UTMB, stress fracture was it?
Yeah, it's the same one. Yeah, the same one all the time.
Yeah. How well do you think training on a Wattbike can translate to running? Because you must be super fit after all that biking. How quickly can you get back to running after something like that?
I think you can come back really quickly. I think you can come back very quickly in terms of, I think it takes a few weeks for your speed to come back, but literally 2 to 3 weeks. I think the big issue is what we all tend to do is go out and do long, because that's what we tend to do. And I think structurally, you're not used to long. So pelvis and legs and feet and the bits that the weight bearing bits just haven't done it. So I think that's why I tried to transition through hiking. And even while I was Wattbiking, I tried to keep the steps up. And certainly when we were measuring me coming back, we weren't measuring it in miles, we were measuring it in steps, because we were adding the hiking steps and the running steps together. And so, you know how they say, oh, you shouldn't increase your mileage by more than 10%, which everyone ignores, but that's in theory the rule of thumb. So I was looking at my steps and trying to keep a track to make sure I didn't go from 20,000 steps a week to 100,000 steps a week, because I felt that would be the disaster. But in terms of transitioning fitness across, I don't think there's any problem at all. And I think it's really quite quick.
Ah, that's really interesting. I'd have thought it'd be much more difficult than that. That explains a lot for some of the runners that I know, actually.
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, I think there isn't a cyclist that's made that transition that hasn't been successful. I mean, Mel Sykes is a one that jumps straight into my head, but and well, even Lucy Gossage from
Yeah.
the triathlon, and it's a no-brainer. But for us runners, we don't want to get on the bicycle.
No.
Uh, I think the other great thing about a watt bike is you sit there, you hit your watts, and you can hit a heart rate. And I know it's desperately untrendy in ultra running world to ever think about heart rate, and everything is perceived effort. And I totally get some of that, but I think there is a real value in the fact that you've done this solid, really consistent chunks of heart rate training, and some of it's quite high, relatively to what you would physically hold running for any consistent period of time. Because probably if you did hold it, you'd end up injuring yourself at some point if you were trying to hold that level. So what I find on hills is I'm really quite comfy with my heart rate going up and sitting there and not worrying about it. Whereas I think other runners are like, whoa, that's quite high for quite a long time. And I'm used to an hour of that, 2 hours of that on a watt bike. It's just like, well, and my
I
heart
find it
rate
so hard to get my heart rate up though on a bike. It takes so much effort.
that's because you haven't done that much of it, Kate, or you've not yet done that much of it. You get better.
Oh, I know.
It's like anything, it's just transitioning across the other way.
Yeah.
That knowledge of the heart rate really helped you early in the race, though, didn't it? Because you were keeping an eye on that after the no sleep, and just sort of you've got a really good measure of yourself now.
Yeah.
And you never know. Like if it was me, I might have just ran off into the race anyway, with everybody else going for the course record, and buried myself before it was too late.
And that's for me the value of it. I mean, at some point, I just take it off. I don't know what point this time around. I think my heart rate ran out of battery about 30 hours or something. And that was it. Like, well, there's no point at that point because your heart rate's going to do what it's going to do. And you're into this sort of jog it, walk it, get through it by then. But I definitely think when the nerves are running strong and everybody's feeling fresh and the field is going off, if you can't hold 160 for 2 or 3 hours in training, you're not going to do it in a race and then survive at the far end. So I find it really super useful as a tool to hold me back, if anything. And it does mean that you know where you are. And so again, it was really windy. Well, the wind pushes your heart rate up. If you try and run really hard into the wind, it's you're working hard, and your body only knows how hard it's working. And I kind of figure there's only so many matches, and so hold them back for later on when I'm going to need them.
Absolutely. It's great that you can do that. What makes you go back to the spine so much? What is it that draws you there?
I think there's a couple of things. I think it's always nice going back to something you know. And the people who run the spine and involved in the spine are in the checkpoints, and the people who actually do the race, they're often the same people year after year after year. So it feels like going home in some ways. And that spine family thing, from the outside may look like it's a cliquey thing, but actually it's not at all. It's just that the minute you've done 5 minutes of it, you're part of that same family. And for me, that's just quite reassuring. It's just nice to see everybody. So there's the social aspect to it. I think the other aspect is I've learned that with my feet and the structure of my feet, the steeper it is and the rockier it is, the less suited I will naturally be to that terrain, or the more risk that terrain holds. And I think over time, I've been like, why don't I love racing in Wales? Why don't I? Because I mean, in theory, I can go up hills really well, and I should be therefore loving it. What is it that holds me back from wanting to do some of that stuff? And I think over time, learning more and more about my feet and the structure of them, I've realized that something like a spine, which is more the ascent, well, it's like 100 meters every 2 miles, whereas a Wales race is 100 meters every mile. A bob is even less than that, and you start to get into this really steep up and down, which is just not as well suited to me. So I think I'm better longer, and I'm better on that more, let's call it rolling sort of terrain. And that's probably what calls me back every time, Robin, because it's like, I know I can do better on that. And maybe it just feels less risky. Even something like a UTMB, the trails are actually really runnable trails. So even the ups and downs are not like Lake District or Wales, really technical descending. So people say to me, will you do a Wainwright's? And it's like, well, from a no sleep perspective, I'd probably do okay. But it's really steep up and it's really steep down and it's really uneven. And it probably isn't just best suited to me as a result.
Yeah.
It's a theme of really knowing yourself here that just sort of shines through everything, I think. And that's why you've just continued to have so much good success, and maybe why you might be signed up to the Winter Spine as well.
I am signed up to that. I mean, I have to admit that terrifies me. I'm not great in cold. I'm not brilliant at nav, but it is a course I now know, and I've just accidentally wrecked it all again. So it won't mean I won't get lost again. The ice worries me on a Winter Spine, and the fact that it's so easy to accidentally injure yourself. I mean, you don't have to be being stupid, you just have to be unlucky. And I tried it once, I can't remember, 23 maybe, or 20, anyway, 22. And I, within, a couple of hours, I'd gone off the side of a slab where you can't see, whacked my knee on the one in front, and that blew up, and I was taken out by a mountain rescue at Torside. So you that can happen, and that's my one concern about it. But now living in the lakes, and certainly as I ran down to Hut 2, there were some real advantages. I've got better at that terrain, so I'm really tempted to give it a go. The pack weight is now not that much different, but I will probably, if I'm truly honest, take a look at the weather, and if it's just weather that's going to kill me off and I'm going to quietly die freezing. Okay, yeah, you can put on piles and piles, but if it's just going to be deeply miserable, it won't be for me. What
was it? 2024 winter was better than 2024 summer, wasn't it? So it could be that the weather comes in your favor.
Yeah, and I can do bad weather. I mean, Crossfell was bad weather. It's just it was more muddy, slippy, rainy, windy, as opposed to ice. The other thing is, I honestly don't know, is if I had to wear the micro spikes or the equivalent for all of it, or for a large chunk of it, I don't know how my foot would react to that. Is it, or both feet, because it's the same with both feet. I don't know what the forces would be like, because it's quite hard on your feet if you have to wear those for quite a chunk of time. So that's the other side of it. So I would love to do it. It would challenge everything. It would be a really big adventure and a big challenge for me. I don't know how I'd feel about the chaos of the aid stations, everybody being wet, filthy, muddy, no space for bags. Don't know how much I'd love that or not. I truly don't know. I have got a place, and I'd love to do it. It frightens me. There we go.
I think that's fair. That's a normal reaction.
I think that's as you say, Robin. I mean, Anna knows herself very well. I mean, this is the benefit of being an older runner, is that you do understand yourself, and you also know when not to do something. And if it doesn't suit you, and if it doesn't feel right, or if it feels like it's too much, then no. Why would you?
Yeah, exactly. It's not like you have anything to prove on the Pennine Way, really, is it?
No, but I think there is still that piece that says the summer spine is easier. So it's quite easy. It's interesting that you say that 24 it was harder. And I think my experience of it on the 3 years is that the weather is massively variable. And that it's not easier on the basis that if you're trying to carry enough water to get through and there is no water and you're massively dehydrated and the sun is beating down on you, I think for a lot of people that's probably harder than just being consistently a temperature and getting the right clothes on. So I think the summer spine gets that it's easier rap, which is possibly why my ego would like to do the winter.
Yeah.
But again, about being an older runner, it's about holding your ego in check and doing something that's sensible as opposed to just for ego.
So I read that you only started ultra running in your 40s. When did it jump out to you? When did you do your first race?
So Richard, my husband, has atrial fibrillation, and both of us had done lots of Ironman, but we wanted something we could do together because he had got to the point where he couldn't go out for those mega days with the boys, because if he held his heart rate at a really high level for a very long time, it threw him into AF. So we decided that we'd try and do something together. And randomly, we were in a hotel, and randomly, Sarkozy, who was president of France at the time, had his bodyguard there, and his book, because he was on a treadmill too, and his bodyguard had a UTMB t-shirt on. And Richard took one look at this bodyguard and went, well, if he can do it, we can do it. Went over and had a chat to him. And this idea of let's do UTMB was born. But literally, that's the same trip where I fell over a paving stone and broke my foot for the first time. That was the first time that we knew that my feet were really dodgy. So it was slightly put back, but we set out to do UTMB. And this was back in 2012. Now, back then, it was dead easy. You just put in an application and you were straight into UTMB. So we did a couple of longer things in the lakes, and then we had our points, which is what you needed back then. And then we went off to UTMB in 2014. But the joy of Ultra was that we could do it together. And we went off and did these things together, and everything was together. And they were just adventures. We didn't really know about racing. We didn't really know about any of it. We were just learning it as we went along. Both of us were long distance athletes. And, Richard had rode for Great Britain by this point, and we'd both done these Ironman. And so we both knew about long, but we had no clue how amazing it felt to do 60 miles. And our first Hardmoors, which was, I think, our first ultra, we just felt on top of the world. We could not believe we'd been 60 miles. This was just like mega. We dined out for ages. So I think that was our love of ultra, which was in that Hardmoors. I think they had a Shire horse category.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. And we were both blown away by this amazing concept of and also how fast the Shire horse category were moving, because we were right towards the back carrying the kitchen sink, because I'd read somewhere about hypothermia. So I had literally everything with me. And I think I was doing it in walking shoes. So my feet were knackered. We made every mistake in the book, but it was just the most amazing experience. And that's when we got into it. So doing UTMB in 2014, by then we started to go, okay, we could actually be quite quick at this. We've got no clue about that until then. Then starting to do better, TDS in 2015. And then we just did UTMB pretty much every year on or off, and started building up. And then I suppose I didn't see real proper success till 2019-ish, probably, when I started to do well in the Arc, well at Lakeland 100. And that was starting to be the breakout time. And then we started to work out Richard was just better at slightly shorter, and I was better the longer we went. So that first spine in 2021, we worked out that actually it would be better if he didn't do the really long stuff. It was likely to collapse.
Let's not have that.
Yeah. So now he's doing that. He's doing Lakeland 50. So he can do really well in that shorter stuff. And then I can do the longer stuff, and that just seems to work. But the ultra world was something we accidentally fell into as a result of Sarkozy's bodyguard wearing his t-shirt. There you go. Wear your UTMB t-shirt with pride. There you are.
All these strange and random ways that we get into running. And tell I'm sure Robin has read this up, but tell everyone who's listening about your family ultra at the Javelina 100.
Well, that was so the girls, both of the girls, because we were down south, and Centurion running is quite a big thing down south, and it's a lovely community, and so they'd always got involved with us at volunteering. And so particularly Millie, the elder one, was really into it, and she helped with the cooking, and she helped with being part of aid stations, and the two of them really loved that world and sending runners out on their way. And then they asked to do 100 miles. I mean, bear in mind, the youngest daughter said, should we all go and do a family Barclay? At which point we said, absolutely not. It's a lack of reality that creeps in occasionally. But that they said they really wanted to do 100 miles. And this, we said, I mean, at the time, Millie, the eldest, was 15. And we said, okay, but, this is a year of training, and we're going to do it properly. And the girls are both very tall, because Bella had scoliosis. The younger one had scoliosis. We knew they were both fully grown because they'd both been x-rayed. They'd both been, checked to within an inch of their lives. So we knew that they had finished growing. So for us as parents, there wasn't a risk to their skeletons by doing any of this. So we're in a slightly different position to some. And we trained them up over a year, literally building up the hiking, building up the back-to-back hiking days, making them just do loads. And then we were out doing the Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc, the course, the TMB, over 4 days with them as part of that training for Javelina. And the little one just kept going, I feel so terrible. Then she was throwing up this really bad coloured stuff, and I can't. And we were like, you've got so unfit. How have you got so unfit? We can't believe you're so rubbish. We were absolutely terrible parents. We had one pushing her up hills, one pulling her from the other side, anything to get her up and down. We got her to sham in the end because she was fine on the descents, and we got her into sham, and she was just like, I think I'll just try and go for a run, but I feel really bad. She came back and said, I've got a really bad headache. We got her back to school because bear in mind these kids are at school. And I said, look, I really think you should just go and see the doctor, say you feel rubbish. So she went to the doctor, and I got the call that every parent dreads, which said, we're holding her in the hospital. Could you come and see us immediately? And it was like, oh, okay. And at that point, we found out she had absolutely virtually no iron left in her body at all, no ferritin to count. She had literally nothing. And they said any adult would have been flat out. This has clearly been happening for some time. So all of the I'm so unfit in the Alps, I have no iron at all in the Alps. And so we dragged her around this TMB. We felt awful, but so she needed an iron transfusion. They never found out why her iron was so low. It was nothing to do with the running. They felt that she must have had a small bleed at some point somewhere, but as a result she couldn't carry on and do anything. She just needed to recoup and get fully back on her feet. But the big one still wanted to go. So again, we have to leave the young one, who at this point was quite sad because she'd done all this training and now had her iron deficiency, but she's on the mend. So we left her with her grandmother, and we took the big one over, and she did the Javelina 100, which again is a brilliant one because it's in loops. It's fun. There's people in costume. And what was fabulous for us was that we were at our pace, or we were going at her pace rather. So I could eat. And there they have so much food. And Millie had gone out, my eldest had gone out saying, I'm going to eat hot dogs, and I'm going to have pizza, and I'm going to have this. And she's green. She's absolutely green, sitting in a chair, can't eat anything. And Richard and I are just like, this is amazing. Food. So she got around in 27 hours. So she absolutely nailed that and was completely brilliant and loved it. After she stopped feeling really sick, but she really, really enjoyed the whole experience, and has looked back and will say, and I know in Jen and in Sim's book, The Path We Run, when she interviewed Millie does say she uses it as this sort of, if I can do 100 miles, I can do anything. And I think even now, going through university finals or rowing for Oxford in a boat race, she would come back to that 100 miles when things get tough and say, I've got this, I've done this, I can therefore do that. So I would never regret the fact that we did it with them. Neither of them had any injuries, and the little one, her iron was a problem, but it's been a problem ever since. It's nothing to do with the running, and I think a lot of females have that issue. We just found out in a rather extreme way, but I think both of them felt that learning how to train was incredibly valuable, and certainly Millie has continued with it. Well, Bella actually has continued with the rowing as well, and both of them have learned how to train as a result of being in and around the ultra community. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's lovely. It's an amazing thing for her that sort of achievement at that age, as you say, will take her forward in so many ways.
And she did carry on, Kate, and she did 3 Lakeland 50s. So she did a Lakeland 50 18, 19 and 20, just off her own back because she wanted to. Did the first one, loved it, as everyone does who loves a Lakeland.
Well, they are brilliant. Yeah.
And then got in the ballot another twice. So she really carried on with it. And it's only really since the rowing has taken over that she stopped doing the ultra. But it's there. You can come back to it any time.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Properly following in Mum's footsteps.
No, I don't think so. They know how to have a little bit more balance than that, Robin.
Right, okay. Yeah, because I read that you won the boat race in 91.
Yeah, that just tells everyone I'm very old, but yes.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I mean, they put it in. Yeah, people don't need to know that.
We definitely won the boat race in 91. It was very exciting. It was a bit of a turnaround year for Oxford. Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Was that when the competitive edge was born?
No, it was probably born earlier than that because I was playing netball competitively before that.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Cool. So, but the rowing was the first real endurance thing and the real training. That was, and I love that.
And loads of eating.
Loads of eating. Yeah, no one held us back in those days. We were proper open weight rowers. Yeah, it was good. Well, I then raced lightweight, and that was much less eating. Oh.
Oh, funny. So I'm interested in your feet as well. So knowing that you've got, do you make any concessions for them shoe wise?
I never have. Um, so the fact that they have the coalitions just means if I suppose when I, she says, when I'm running constantly, they're not flattening like yours would. Those bones, those arch bones won't move. So it just bangs on the front of my heel bone. So I suppose if I was never ever going to run, I'd never need to make any concessions at all, because they'd usually have found these coalitions in, my, I don't know, usually when you're a teen, they find them, Kate. And they were pretty amazed that the amount of netball, it usually manifests as ankle instability. And certainly my eldest Millie has coalitions as well. And we found them because her ankle, she was just couldn't, she was like Bambi. It was like, really? So then we checked, and then it was like, oh, by which point her ligaments had gone and she'd had to have ankle ops. But the shoes, I think the key is making sure that they're stable. But we all grew up in heels. Back then, everyone turning up to an office was in heels. So I used to be able to run in heels. So I actually truly don't quite know how they've survived this long without breaking. I mean, you could collate it with starting to do the long ultra stuff, and actually just even marching around London in heels was fine. Maybe like everything, bodies just adapt. I think what I found as I've got older is my perineal has to do more work. So what they've done now is put orthotics in my shoes for the first time. So this was the other thing. As I was doing the prep for this race, I got orthotics. I was like, do I go with those? Do I not go with those? People always say adjust. And it was like, okay, just bung them in. Just another factor. Let's see what happens. And the podiatrist has actually put little extra wings into the orthotics to try and help stabilize the perineal. And I think that's really helped, because the perineal hasn't been tired at all.
Okay.
It's that race. And if you think about the instability on the spine and the terrain, it would, especially as it was quite boggy. But no, I think now I'm more conscious. And also the world has moved on massively. It's fine for us all to walk around in flats. I mean, I had to go to an Oxford ball with Bella just after the spine. That was a bad night. It was a good night, but it was... This was the Saturday after finishing on the Wednesday. I was like, oh, I'm not going to make very late. Not sure I can get my spine feet in shoes, but anyway, we'll have a go. Wow. So, but at that, it was really interesting. Even in white tie, loads of people were just in the trainers. So there's just been, or your Converse or your flats, stuff that, as we were growing up, you'd never have ever dreamt of doing. So it was, I think it'll actually get easier with my feet from here, because I think it's just totally fine to walk around in a pair of trainers, which is a win. So all my heels, I just don't look at them anymore. It's just like, oh, I'm not sure I can do that anymore.
Oh, I know. I've still got lots of heels, but never go out.
No, and if you live in trainers long enough, everything spreads beautifully as well, so nothing fits anymore.
Yeah, except I've still got very high at the top. Apparently that's from wearing high heels all the time.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
So no, I'm not making any concessions, although I think the next phase now for me is I will find out what physio I can do to strengthen everything around it. But I think that's something, even though I've resisted generally as much S&C as I can possibly resist, I am going to have to try and embrace it now and just do as much as I can to be as structurally strong as possible for as long as possible. I think that's possibly something we need to do as older athletes. Sadly, boringly.
It's something that I need to be doing it right now already. So
yeah. I was boring Robin with my run this morning and said, it takes a good 2 miles at least to warm up. And it's just going to hurt no matter what. It's just going to hurt, and eventually it goes.
Yeah. And I think the weights can only help. So I think they're just learning more and more all the time. And we're just all going to have to sacrifice some time outside for some time in a gym, which feels all wrong, but actually is what we need to do. And I'm definitely a better runner when I'm doing it. I don't like to admit that, but I'm definitely a better runner for time in the gym.
Yeah, a stronger body makes a stronger runner. It's not rocket science, really, is it? It's just a bit boring to make time for it.
seriously boring. And then I think if you love running, it's generally because you like to be outside. So it's and actually it hurts being in the gym. You know, those tiny weeny exercises really bite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those nightmare elastic bands, and you're like, oh, really? More?
And then they only get more tight and
Yeah.
more tension. Yeah, it's tough. I've just started an at-home strength and conditioning, like 10 weeks. I've done one session, so I'm already pretty pleased with myself. Looking in the mirror, like, no, nothing's changed.
Yeah.
I know, but then it's like, yeah, I've done it. I can stop now.
Yeah.
That's enough.
I know the thing that drives physios mad, they give us the exercises, we do them, we recover, and then we go, oh, I can stop now. And they're like, no, that wasn't the plan.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's why my Achilles was a bit sore last week and this week, because I'd stopped the exercises. So yeah.
So you're back on them.
Yeah, I'm back on them and hoping that it will be all sorted before Race to the Stones.
Mm. When is that? That's not far off now, is it?
2 weeks on Saturday.
Weeks. Taper time.
Yeah, taper time. So it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll feel great because it's not doing anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you did 50 miles 3 weeks ago. Robin paced a friend at South Downs Way, 100. So you've done 50 miles. I mean,
yeah, it'll be all right.
The Race to Stones will be easy.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the distance. I'm just worried if my Achilles starts moaning, whether to tune it out or not. Is that fine line, isn't it? Between, is this a really bad pain or is this one that I can push through?
This is an okay pain.
Yeah, there's an argument to say there's never such thing as an okay pain.
Probably not.
Yeah.
This is ultra runners talking here, isn't it?
And not with the Achilles. I think I have to say, I'm not experienced on it, but what I've seen and read from others is you don't mess with the Achilles. So take it easy.
As my eldest said to me as I went into UTMB in 2022, and she said, well, you know, if you start, the chances are you're going to break. So you're going to have to weigh up how you feel about doing a race versus being out for 6 months, was what she said. 6 months, not 2.5 years, 6 months. Right? So I think that will be the same for you. You're going to have to weigh up between how you feel about blowing up your Achilles and being out for a chunk of time or a finish. Did you finish?
Yeah. I think I would much rather continue running than finish.
So then you may take a view just before the start as to whether it's strong enough.
Sensible choice. Sensible.
Yeah. Okay.
Hard choice, not a choice I made, but hard choice.
So what's next for you, Anna?
Well, in the calendar, Kate, is Lakeland 100.
Okay.
And then race across Scotland after that. But the older, wiser Anna is thinking maybe this is not the year to do Lakeland 100. Coming back to what courses suit me. I know I can race the course. I know I can do well over the course. I know I've probably got the raw speed back again now to do okay, and it's a much lighter pack. But as we know, it's quite gnarly. It's not gnarly, technical, but it's rocky and hard and up and down. So it might be one to miss and to do Race Across Scotland, which is just longer, softer, and more of that sort of rolling terrain. And I discovered today that you're allowed support. It's like, I know. So actually, I could have Richard in a van doing checkpointy stuff.
Yeah.
I could actually have food that I would then hopefully eat, so it could be a really interesting experiment, which is if I get my food right, what does that do to my pace? And then mandatory kit is much, much lighter. So, and I wouldn't then, if I have Richard in a van, I wouldn't need to have a ton with me because there will be someone not so far away. So it will, you know, I'd obviously have the mandatory, but I wouldn't need the extra.
When is that?
Well, that's the 9th of August.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's not far off.
No, but I think that's probably a better gap.
Yes.
Than Lakeland.
I'm covered for Lakeland, but I couldn't do the both. Well, I could. We know I've done stupid things like that before, but last time I did that, I ripped a quad. So I'm not sure that's the way to go.
No, I think Scotland sounds a good, and it's new and something different and interesting.
But there is something special about Lakeland.
There is. But
I love a Lakeland.
How many times have you done that now?
I've done it 3.
So you're a legend? No, is it a 5?
No, I need 5. Oh, you see, that's the problem. I need 5. But I think maybe you just have to choose your years.
Yeah.
I think the issue with Lakeland is it's getting so hard to get into that you worry about not taking up a place.
Yeah, this was the first year that I entered and I didn't get in. Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels sad. That's it.
Yeah.
And then you feel like, oh, I've got a place, and that feels like other people would have loved that place. Now I feel bad.
Mm.
But
But
I had
yeah,
a place last year and couldn't do it, obviously after my op. But yeah, it's like I'm never going to get a place again.
I know it's tricky. So that's the only weighing up piece, which is I have a place. But I
You
think
would get a place again, I'm sure. Yeah.
no, I do the ballot like everyone else.
Yeah.
I've always done the ballot on all of these spiny things, everything. No, the only time you get a spine place is if you win.
yeah. That's very honourable. I'm sure you could give a cheeky message to someone and they would nudge you in.
I'm sure they would.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not something I've done, so
That's good.
so it would feel a bit risky. But yeah, no. I think I will. I think the sensible me says don't push it. You know, you've had an. Spine was just so much better and more brilliant than I could ever have hoped. So I don't want to go back to another 2 years of nothing.
Yeah.
So it feels like just count your blessings and don't push it.
Yeah. And you're in the lakes now. So, I mean, the opportunities are going to be there.
Well, I did think, Kate, if I do race across Scotland, there's 13 valleys.
Yes.
Yeah. Good shout.
Where
Yeah.
I've got a place, and then that would be a nice one to do as an alternative to Lakeland. So yeah, so I'm just I didn't, as I say, I didn't expect to necessarily be here. So I'm now going, oh, I could.
Yes. Yeah. Suddenly the world's opened up again, isn't
Yeah,
it?
because like Winter Downs 200 is one that I had a place for last year, couldn't do.
Mm.
Had to pull out. So because you know that I literally thought I'd be better for that last year, and it wasn't. So it would be that's another one that could be quite nice. And then there's Northern Traverse, which I was meant to be doing this year and couldn't, and I've got a place for next year. So there's a few more that I'd quite like to do.
And those good decisions that you made not to do them paid off. You know,
But you know how hard it was.
I know. And that was something else you said in your post was about being on the fringes for so long that really just struck a chord with me because yeah, I absolutely know that. And I think it's just so lovely that now you're back and it's yeah, the world's opened up again, but yeah, don't let it go to your head. Don't go mad, please.
Yeah.
I think that's the real problem with being an older athlete as well. You know that you've got a finite number of years. And losing those 3 years was really because it was off the back of being, you know, quite reasonably fast, and then suddenly to lose those 3 years has been quite frustrating. But it is what it is. So I can't make up that time by just cramming in new races, which is the temptation.
No.
Yeah. But each year, as I was chatting to John Knapp about this, that the psychology of being the older athlete is the temptation to just keep trying to do as many as possible while everything still works.
Yeah.
You've still got loads of time.
Yes,
You'll get them all done.
One of my greatest inspirations has always been my first coach, Stu Mills. And he still went out. I think last year he went out and he broke the record for whatever his age group category was in the marathon. And he's at least 10 years older than me. So he's got to be 63, 4, something like that. You know, so there's still lots of time and you can still, you know, there's still time to be competitive as well.
Yeah, no, I know. So I will be wise. That is my promise to myself, the family who are fed up with it. Because an injured athlete is not a fun thing to have around on a long-term basis. And even though I had got to acceptance, it's still that grumble of I can't, you know, it's still really hard. So yes, I will be sensible.
Well, Robin, have you got any last questions?
I was going to ask about Arc 100, just because I'm doing it in January for the first time. Have you got like any like top tips that you could recommend?
It's an amazingly fun race. I always think it's surprisingly hard because even though it's only 3,000 meters, isn't it? I think it ends up being a bit more than that, but somewhere in and around that. Every climb is just really short and sharp. I think it's worth, if you can, a recce,
Right.
because even though Ferg always says, just keep the sea on your left, which is good advice, it's not that straightforward, and it's quite easy to end up going down little tracks onto beaches rather than actually staying on the southwest coast path. So I think worth a recce. I think they do allow support crews. We've done it both ways. The aid stations are fantastic, depending on whether you want to nail it or whether you just want to take your time and enjoy it. Depends whether a support crew would be good, because a support crew means they can chuck your bottles at you, chuck your food at you. You still have to go up into an aid station to come out, but you're not spending time. And the food is great, and it's very easy to get sucked into long times at their aid stations, really easy. So I would say that there's more running than you think. It's definitely a running 100. And so, for example, as you come through Penzance, I'm thinking the 6 to 10 miles of just really almost road running, to the point some people take road trainers. We never did. Yeah. But some people actually do. So again, it's how you want to race it and whether you've got support. And as I say, we've done it both ways, and either way works. I think it just be prepared for rubbish weather. I mean, we've done it in a year where 3 storms have hit. We've done it in a year where it's been great. I've done it in a year where it's been sort of 8-10 degrees, and I've been in a waterproof Escort. So it can be really, really muddy.
How many times have you done it?
3. But
you definitely like going back to something that you're familiar with, don't you?
Well, the first year, and this is quite, we had support, and it was the year that 3 storms hit, and we hadn't recce'd it. And everyone said the next bit from, I can't remember, someplace over to St Ives is really quite tricky and quite exposed. And because we hadn't recce'd it, they said it's really quite dangerous. And it literally was blowing a hoolie. So because we had a car, said, okay, well, we won't carry on. And so the next year we had recce'd, and we knew that even if the weather was really bad, that yes, there is a scramble, and yes, it is a bit exposed, but no, it's not going to be a sort of if I fall, I die moment. So we did carry on. Okay. And we'd wished we'd known about that in the first year. So we went back because of a sort of the DNF, and it really made us consider whether you wanted support, because if there's a car, it's a dead easy decision to make. Whereas if there's no car, we would have carried on.
You have to keep going.
There were 2 of us. So I think from that perspective, it's worth knowing that tricky bit over to St Ives, just so you know what's coming. Maybe you do already, I don't know, but it was definitely for me worth recceing. And then again, it's one where everyone goes out like the clappers. And again, it depends whether that's your pace or not. But it's still 100 miles, and there's still quite a lot of up and down, and it does eat your legs. And lots of people go out without poles, which I always find extraordinary, because actually I find towards the latter stages that are really critical, because they're such steep climbs. They're short, but they're really, really hard. And I love to climb, but it's still, they're ones that really kill you quietly.
I did think this was probably the first race that I might need poles.
I think they were quite useful in it. I would not have, also they just help me skip along, and if they're light enough or you fold them up, when it comes to the running bits, it's not a biggie.
Okay, thank you very much.
I haven't done it since it became UTMB, but I'm a UTMB fan, so I'm sure it's great.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah,
I'm sure it hasn't changed. It may just be a bit busier.
Yeah, I'll be able to get support there as well, but I'll put him under strict instructions to not let me in the car.
Yeah, no, exactly. Even if it's blowing 3 storms at once, you're not allowed. I kind of assume that if they will have to call it off if it's that dangerous.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah, definitely.
But I have run it in full waterproofs, so there are times when it is a proper.
I think that's what it got struck off my to-do list one year when it was just a mud fest, and everyone got timed out because it was just so slow because of the mud. And I thought, I don't want to do that.
and you're right, Kate, it is like that, but you know that's not my thing either. So it is runnable in the right shoes.
If it's not, yeah.
So, but those little paths which are really suddenly very, very muddy with little bits of stone in there, it is a bit treacherous. You do have to, again, it's an ego in the back pocket and just get through to the end, as opposed to try and go really super fast. But I think it's a great winter one to try. Fun.
Right. I'm still looking forward to it.
I really enjoyed it. It's another one I would do again. It's just, as Kate's just pointed out, I keep going back, so I've got to do the winter downs first. I've got a
Yeah.
winter spine to do as well.
Oh, right. Well, thank you, Anna, so much for talking to us. Congratulations, and a very, very heartfelt welcome back. It's good to see you back, and looking
Thank
forward
you.
to Race Across Scotland then.
Thanks, Kate. So nice to see you. Nice to see you, Robin.
Nice to see you.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.